ties between India and Italy as far as exchange of students, faculty, researchers is concerned. Many Indian universities, they have exchange programs and collaborations. But we need to strengthen it further. As of now, we have more than 1,700 Indian students who are studying in different universities and other institutions in Italy. And there are some students from Italy who are studying in India, but their number is much smaller. Many of them, they come to study Hindi in Central Hindi Institute at Agra, which provides 1-year scholarship program to Italian students. Last year, the focus of education part of the summit was on technical education and vocational education. A lot of things have happened in the last 1 year on these two fronts also. AICTE, the regulator for technical education in the country, has come up with the new curriculum for most of the engineering subjects. And because the subjects like computer science and software, they are changing so fast, the plan is to change these curricula as frequently as possible, and more so for subjects related to computer sciences. A unique program has been started in India where every graduate, whether you are in liberal arts also, whether you are doing history or polity or whatever, you will be offered one vocational course also during the 3-year program. So if you are doing, say, graduation in history, earlier what used to happen was the student will complete his course and there are not many jobs for a graduate in history, and many of them will remain unemployed. Now he will be offered a group of courses to select from. He can select as per his choice. For example, a history graduate can select to learn skills to become a tourist guide, because history and tourism is very much connected. And we are having more than 30 offers who will be doing it along with the graduation. So we are also trying to offer them the choice whether they want to do it during summer vacation or winter vacation, or all along the year during the weekends. The duration of these extra hours would be varying between 600 to 1,000 hours spread over 3 years period. The idea is that all these students who are doing liberal arts, if they want to switch over to some vocational profession, so they will have a skill to depend upon. As far as research is concerned, we feel proud that India as of now is number 3rd in the world in terms of publications published in major international research magazines. And the number is increasing very fast. Our most important institution, IITs, Indian Institution of Technology, till very recent time they were mostly focusing on undergraduate programs, BTech program, and the BTech students are famous world over as one of the best students. But of late, in the last 4-5 years, they have also laid a lot of emphasis on research. So most of the IITs now have equal number of PhD students. Earlier the PhD students, the percentage was very, very small. Almost 50%, they are reaching 50%, and they might increase further. So a lot of research is happening in IITs and also other institutions. The trend is very broad, and almost every institution is now laying more and more focus on research. 3 years back, we started National Institution Ranking Framework, where a lot of weightage is given to research. Because of that, now every institute, because whenever the rankings are announced, so every institute looks at where they stand And automatically it has almost compelled them to focus on research, otherwise their rank go down. And you know, nothing worse can happen to an institution than having a lower rank than last year. So automatically all the institutions, they have started a lot of emphasis on research. Moreover, these IITs are also having research parks. Most of the other institutions are also having. We sponsored 9 research parks in major IITs. And if you happen to visit IIT Madras, its research park is a success story. They were the first one to start. Now it has a lot of technology, incubators, and innovation. There's a lot of startups. And whosoever wants to have a startup, this is his first choice in Madras, that he wants to go to IIT Research Park. It has become the most sought after address because of its association with IIT and the ecosystem it has been able to create there. Innovation, although it comes from society and private industry, but whatever role government or the government institutions have to play, we have recently, 2 months back, created innovation cell in the ministry. And we are asking most of the institutions to have innovation clubs. I'm happy to say that as of today, more than 1,000 institutions in the country, they have started innovation clubs, which are run by the students, and they will work on the theme of innovation. Gyan is another success story where Italy has been very closely associated with India. It's a scheme where we invite faculty from all over the world to come to India and teach a course. The course can vary from 1 week to 2 weeks to 3 weeks or even little longer. And the remuneration is very handsome, it's very attractive. And we are happy that till last year, 1,200 teachers from other countries, including from Italy, they visited Indian institutions and they conducted 1 course in Indian institutions. Out of these 1,200, 46 were from Italy. And the experience is very good, and we will urge the Italian partners to increase this number, because this is a success story as far as foreign collaboration and exchange programs are concerned. Recently we started just few months back a scheme called Spark for research and academic collaboration. Here also we have selected 28 countries, Italy is one of them, for collaborations between Indian institutions and foreign institutions. The condition is that any foreign institution should be in the top 500 of KOS ranking, or in the top 100 of subject, 200 of subject ranking. And for Indian institution, it is necessary that they must be in the top 100 of national ranking. So there are 17 institutes and universities which qualify under this condition from Italy. And there are 254 institutions which are available for collaboration in India. So there's a lot of scope. A unique thing has been done that we have made some institution, one or the other institution, nodal for each of these 28 countries. For example, for Italy, we have IIT Guwahati, which is nodal for this new research collaboration program for Italy. So anything to be done with Italy, it will be good, easy for Italy. Also, you have any issue, you need not search whom to contact. It's a nodal institution. Any issue regarding visa or any other government issue, you can talk to IIT Guwahati. And all the Indian institutions, they need not replicate and duplicate and waste the effort. They can simply pose their problem to IIT Guwahati, and IIT Guwahati will sort out issue with the counterparts or the government of Italy. If any issue comes at the government level, then of course we are there to deal with the issues on government to government level. This is a unique scheme. So not taking much of your time, there's a lot of scope under Gyan and Spark scheme. And of course, institutions have been dealing with each other at the institution level. There is tremendous scope to further strengthen the ties and further have more vigorous exchanges. I hope that this will happen sooner than later. Thank you very much.
Here's the Italian Network of Technology Transfer Offices of Universities and Public Research Organizations. Polinico di Torino. I request Professor Pulusi to give his initial remarks, please.
Thank you very much. In the authorities, Secretary Sando, distinguished speaker, ladies and gentlemen. It's an honor to be here. I will try to elaborate further on the discussion on the presentation Secretary Sando just gave to discuss about university programs can improve collaboration, technology transfer, and foster innovation. And the words I just listened, we share in our university system some of the challenges you have in your system. I would like to discuss three simple concepts. The first is the role university today have in transferring technologies and in creating innovation is a new role. The role we have is changing, and collaboration among university and industries is becoming increasingly important. There are some lessons I would like to share with you. Then I would like to share the experience we have in Italy in order to tackle this kind of issues. We created an association where universities and research centers can share experiences. It's hard when you have to learn alone. It's much better when you share experiences and want to bring our experiences. And then last point, I would like to address some potential areas of collaboration that, by the way, go in the direction you just listened to. This is not what we do as a university, but in the role university have in innovation, bridging the gap between research and innovation today is much broader than it was in the past. Those on the slides are some example of very famous companies coming not from research, pure research from companies, but from research from university and from people coming from university. There are few, but in my slides there are many, and the number is growing continuously. And this is part of the role that the university are now assuming in addition to research and education. There are traditional missions in transforming high-quality research results into innovation with the ability to impact on the society and the economy. This is a role we are trying to play. And innovation ecosystem, in most of the cases are benefiting from the presence of universities collaborating with companies. Last but not least, importance of university is a collaboration among university. It's hard to play the innovation game alone. Sharing experiences among universities, companies, and also across nations, because challenges from the economy and society must be global. So it's easier when you share your experience with the university and companies from other nations. Will help you manage two phenomena we discussed in this yesterday and today in these 2 days in terms of complexity of the new technologies when it comes to healthcare or other areas of discussion. Convergence of technologies, complexity of technologies cannot be tackled only by research in university and only by research inside companies. So collaboration is needed, and we may play a very positive role. Intellectual property and many other activities that in the past were not relevant for university are becoming more important because logically must be able to develop and control and spread the technology you are and the knowledge you are developing. For us as universities, there are two concepts that are becoming increasingly important. Is the ability to manage uncertainty and failure when it comes to research innovation. You are not sure you will come up with positive results, but nevertheless, it must be part of our culture, the ability to understand what are the challenges you have to tackle and how you manage experiments. Experiment can be not lead you to success, but will teach you a lot, so you must be able to change this. And also collaboration is important because when it comes to innovation, our ability as university, as a professor, researcher, to understand what are the challenges and putting it into our models and our research requests from the society and the economy is becoming relevant, the collaboration with other stakeholders will help a lot. This brings university to develop multiple roles, much broader and to some extent more complex than in the past, in order to create, co-create innovation with also regional and global actors, with a very specific role in the area where they lead their sort of anchor institution. There are many researchers showing that all the innovation processes start from the university having the ability to create positive connection with the place where they are. Last but not least, there are some question about entrepreneurship, especially technological-based entrepreneurship and related skills. There are a growing demand about these aspects, and it's not clear what is the role of university. Two challenges are under our analysis, and we have to take into consideration. We are educating our students in terms of basic disciplines, research, and so on, but there is a matter of innovation skills, entrepreneurship. Who will do this kind of education? Universities are doing, growing extent this kind of activity, trying to educate the innovators of the futures based on challenges. There are some experiences in terms of incentives we have to create for students and for professional researchers to work in this direction. Second challenge is related to the metrics of technology transfer. This is made a very simple concept of technology readiness level. So the idea is that when it comes to low technology readiness level, it's university, it's research. When it comes to higher levels, that is the industry, because you don't have technological uncertainty. So that's the market that's driving innovation. In the middle, there is a so-called area of technology transfer where you may have startups, proof of concept, many activities that today are sort of that valley where universities are investing a lot. So the second challenge is who's funding this kind of universities are doing in some cases this kind of investment on their money, but at least in Europe there is no specific measure for financing this kind of activity. So what is happening is that university has becoming proactive investors. So they are investing on very promising research aspects, fields, helping with the inside-out logic, helping researchers to transform research results into innovation that can be brought to the market. Specific funds are needed. There are very few experiences in this field, but any successful university in creating startups and innovation is doing this kind of job with the strong collaboration and even co-location with large companies. So this is altogether the main concepts regarding technology transfer and collaboration with other stakeholders in the field of innovation. What we are doing in Italy, we created some years ago, around 13 years ago, an association for sharing experiences because it's hard to learn, it's hard to change our incentives and in ideas. It's a network including most of the Italian universities, and the mission is valorization of research results, so giving more boost to technology transfer. Few facts and figures. So almost any Italian university and research organization is part of this network. The number of professionals is growing, so there is a strong stress on education of new professionals in this field. There is a shared patent portfolio that is growing continuously, as well as the number of spin-offs created within this organization is growing. Two simple projects we put in place. The first is nobody knows about research results. We have many patents. We have a lot of SMEs. Our Secretary, the Vice Minister, told about the stress and importance we give to SMEs in developing our economy. Most of the cases, they have no idea where are the technology already available, where we put taxpayers' money to develop those technologies. So we created a website with the technology well explained, available for licensing under some very simple conditions. The number of patents is growing. We have more than 600 patents up to now, but we are continuously uploading the information. You have the website in case you want to check. In a way that can be understood by business partners. This is a very simple example, a detailed description. More, in addition, you have the technical data and patent data. We also created a database of spin-offs because, again, creating a positive relationship between the academia and spin-offs, the business that may need technology developed by spin-off, it's usually harder. It's difficult to get in contact. This is an attempt we did that is becoming successful in terms of sharing experience. Having said so, I try to elaborate on different aspects on how India-Italy collaboration could be brought to a more mature level. Sharing experiences among universities, I think, is important. I've learned that you have the same stress we do have on performance indicator, H-index, and all the bibliometrics that is related to research, but at the same time, experiences regarding technology transfer are important. When it comes to entrepreneurship, having national entrepreneurship, I think we think is not enough. Having a sort of international entrepreneurial journey, sharing experiences, moving students with good ideas, with new business ideas coming from research, it could be beneficial because we have different markets, Europe and India, but if you put together them, I think you may have a greater opportunity. Collaboration with international partners. We probably working with the same partners in Italy, but those business partners have operation and activities here in India as well. So sharing this kind of relationship could be beneficial for both patients. And also when it comes to investors, incubators, they have a national association that could benefit from a more broader and frequent relationship. On the other side, there are some ideas for institutional level. Joint funds for exploring technologies, for example, in the 6 fields we are developing in order to help move research results. Yesterday was your listening to the session, and I understand it's not easy to transfer some ideas from the research to application here in India and the other way around. I think all true, the same. Having a specific small funds targeted to development of proof of concept, I think could be beneficial for the collaboration among the two university systems. With the identification of specific areas of experimentation, so it must be very well targeted. Looking for more ideas that could create breakthroughs, collaboration between helping and fostering and supporting collaboration among startups and incubators, because doing international business for a small startup, it's the hardest thing they must do, and usually they need more support and not simple money, because they have no idea where to go, and university can help a lot on this. And also sharing IP, intellectual property. Usually we tend to produce IP we keep for ourselves. That is logic of openness and growth of the economy of the society. That's not the best option. So having programs for sharing in a positive way, the IP also creating sort of pools of patents, I think could be very beneficial for collaboration among our university. I thank you very much for your attention. To finish my presentation. Thank you very much.
Very good morning to all of you, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Mohan Reddy. I co-chair the CII National Council on Education. I'd like to accord a very warm welcome to all our guests from Italy this morning. You heard two of our senior leaders from India's side, Mr. Sukhbir Singh Sindhu, and from the Italian side, Professor Emilio Palusi, on their thoughts on how we can collaborate in education between India and Italy. Let me set the tone for a panel discussion. The panel, as you see, is fairly large. We have as many as 9 people on the panel today on what potential areas of this collaboration could be. So going back into history, if you look at it, both India and Italy have a fairly great civilizations. And thousands of years back, both the countries had focused on education. If you look at the oldest universities in India, which of course don't exist anymore, thousands of years back you had Taxila, you have Nalanda, you have Nagarjuna, and so on and so forth. But interestingly, one of the oldest universities in the world, which still is in existence, is in Italy. University of Bologna, which is probably at least close to 1,000+ years old at this point of time, fully functioning from the day it started off. So understandably, there is a tremendous amount of synergy that could get created between India and Italy in terms of education. Moving further, if you look at the scenario in India, we have this great nation with 1.3 billion people population, which I believe is about 18% of the global population at this point of time. And more interestingly, it also has the youngest population in the world. By 2020, the median age for India would be 28 years, compared to China and US, which will be more like 37 years. Europe will be about 45 years, and Japan is at 48 years. We therefore have a swelling workforce, which requires A, being educated, B, therefore, thereafter, being gainfully employed. Understandably, we have seen yet another commonality between both Italy and India is that both these nations are putting tremendous amount of effort in developing human capital, because that is where I think the future lies. We have seen disappearance of fascism, communism, feudalism, all these isms have gone. People are questioning even capitalism at this point of time. What probably will live forever is the knowledge that we have, and for which education becomes the key driver for it. So therefore, I think the intent at this point of time to collaborate between Italy and India, both in technical education and vocational education, seems to be the most appropriate thing that we need to do. So therefore, what we have done is that in order to have these thoughts on where we can collaborate, we put together a panel of 9 speakers today, and the way in which we will do it is each will share their thoughts for about 3 to 4 minutes. And before they start doing that, sharing the thoughts with you, let me think from my perspective, what are the themes on which we can collaborate? And surprisingly, and it only reflects how unified thinking we have between government and our industry associations. Mr. Sandhu talked about 2 of them. The first one is being talked about at this point of time called Gyan. Some of you, if you're not familiar with this Sanskrit word Gyan, it's about knowledge. This is a platform that was created by Government of India, where they're enlisting a pool of scientists, researchers, teachers, and entrepreneurs. And today there is an enormous amount of need for people from the Western world to get into India, for the simple reason for getting the number of engineering students educated in the country, we have shortfall of faculty. So therefore, one way that Italy can collaborate back with India is through this particular platform called Gyan. That's one thing that I like my panelists also to comment about. And the second one, which Mr. Sandhu also talked about, is the higher order research degree collaboration, which is also happening as we speak at this point of time. He did give us some statistics to say there are about 17 universities from Italy, 254 in India, which are collaborating with each other. There are some benchmarks to which they have cleared them before they can do this collaboration. So if you look at this particular scheme, it's or the higher order learning, which is basically intended for PhDs, and I, as the chairman of IIT Hyderabad, have been involved in this particular process. We run with a number of countries around the world, and it's working wonderfully well. Taking the average PhD program to be 4 years, you could do 3 years in the country, and then you can do 1 year outside the country, or it can be 2 plus 2 years. They would have a common guide, common facilities usage, and the funding, there are various different variants which are there. As a result of that, we are seeing tremendous amount of acceleration to obtaining PhD degrees. And what the foreign countries, or countries like Italy, will have the advantage is to also get involved with a larger number of PhD students. Back to my point of 1.3 billion people population. So the second area that we can do, I think it's called SPARK or SPARK, that is collaboration between universities in Italy and India in the higher order learning. A third one, which I honestly have to say that it came to my attention only in the very recent past, is that Italy has a process which has been running for several years, I think as many as 30 to 40 years, called the Bologna Process, reflecting back on the University of Bologna system that they have. And the Bologna Process right now has exchanged a factor between about 48 European states in higher education. I think, we also have a very similar program in India, which is UGC-led program called the Twinning Program. So they primarily want universities across the world to twin with each other, where they're also saying that for undergrad programs, students can go and spend 2 semesters overseas, whereas for postgraduate programs, they can go and spend 1 semester overseas. So this type of an initiative, of whether we call it as the Bologna Process or the Twinning Program, and I'm also told the Bologna Process is actually right now in Italy, and you are finding that there will be 2 more major summits that would happen in Italy in the very near future, and we should be participating in them. So my third submission is, can Bologna Process and the Twinning Program join together in making progress? My fourth one is, if you look at Italy, Italian industry, it's known for precision engineering, textiles, apparel, leather goods, and so on and so forth. Absolutely high-end brands that come out of Italy, including, I believe, my jacket is an Italian jacket, my tie is an Italian tie right now. But more on a serious note, on the other side, if you look at India, you also have a few industries which have done outstanding work. An industry that I come from, which is the IT-enabled services, an industry which has grown to $165 billion as of last year. And if you look at what's happening now further into innovation, entrepreneurship, and startups, there is a tremendous amount of need to marry the physical world with the cyber world, which in some other terminology, people call it as the Industry 4.0. So in order to collaborate on Industry 4.0, it's not necessarily between 2 industries, the industry versus the manufacturing industry. There could be a number of other stakeholders who could come into play, including the academic institutions, the research institutions of both the countries. So therefore, is there something that we could do in that area is my fourth proposition. And my last proposition, the fifth one, is that today we also have a major challenge in terms of skills in India. The TVETs are they called, that's technical and vocational education training, is which I think we need to do a lot more, because especially in the lower order skills, we certainly have a large number of gaps. Italy has done some outstanding work on that. We have started momentum in that particular area. We now have a institution called the NSDC, which is called the National Skill Development Corporation, which has got about 300 plus training partners, 7,000 plus training centers at this point of time, and have also trained about 1.7 million. What we need is to scale this further. So there could be a potential opportunities for us to collaborate in areas of skilling. So I have these 5 propositions for you. The first one is to see if we can participate in Gyan. The second one is that we can participate in the higher order of learning. The third one is about the Bologna Process. The fourth is the high technology industry. And finally, the fifth one is on the skills part. I think what we have seen in the past also is that there has been some progress. There's no denying at all. Mr. Sandhu talked to us about the progress they have done with Gyan. In Gyan, he said there are 46 of the Italian specialists who are there on the site. Or in the Spark, he said the 17 universities and 254 Indian universities which are collaborating. But what we need is scale. We produce at this point of time, our capacity for engineering education is 1.5 million is the capacity. Enrollment is somewhere in the range of about 700 or 800,000. And we do have challenges there. And if we could collaborate further, I'm sure it will be a win-win for both our countries. I'll stop there and then request my counterpart, who is also co-chair of this event, Mr. Rimando Di Cardona, who is the diplomatic counselor to the Italian Ministry of Culture, to please speak. Mr. Cardona.
Thank you, Mr. Reddy. I must say I very much share your views, as I do appreciate what have been said earlier by the Deputy Secretary, by Professor Paolucci. In fact, in the area of education and university and higher education, there is a hell of a lot that can be done and that must be done together. I represent the Italian Ministry of Education, Universities and Research. In our system, these 3 areas are merged into one to signify the need of generating synergies in both education and application of high technologies in our productive system. The starting point for us is in this endeavor to work together in this sector is the initiative that was kicked off by Prime Minister Gentiloni, who came to an official visit to India in the first half of 2017. And in his meeting with Prime Minister Modi, they decided to work on the scientific protocol that was signed just earlier on between our 2 countries, through which 23 projects of cooperation between university and research centers were launched. You understand that in this moment there are more than 200 collaborations between Italian and Indian universities. So we have a very sound and strong basis of university cooperation. It is based not exclusively, but to a wide extent in the technical sector, engineering and so on. So the basis of this university partnership that adds up to the official collaboration at government level that I mentioned to you, that was started last year, provides us with a very strong base from which we can continue our work. The fact that Italy was invited last year, and that of course we gladly accepted to become partner country of this tech summit, is another example of how well things are going and how much can be done together between our two countries. In that circumstance, last year, the two leaders launched also the International Center of Genetic Engineering and Biotechnology that had already a base in Trieste, in northeast Italy, and that is now has headquarters both in Trieste and here in Delhi. More than 60 countries participate to this endeavor. Within the framework of our executive program on scientific technology, we are also funding projects through a fund that, as I was saying, and we have also launched a joint call for proposal. Its call was done together simultaneously and in a coordinated way between Italy and India. The projects that we were calling for, they were from the information and communication technology, from energy, environment, sustainable agriculture, resource efficiency and soil remediation, health, medicine, biotechnology, and so on. So we can see there is a very strong technical focus on the work to be done between universities of our two countries. 13 projects have already been selected within this program. Mr. Reddy, you have also mentioned the JAN, the Global Initiative of Academic Networks. We have discussed this specific project. It's an Indian project. We have discussed it bilaterally in Mendoza in the beginning of September, when our ministers of education met in a G20 framework. We are quite happy to work together in that project and to select entrepreneurs, scientists, experts of higher education that may come to India and collaborate and have their own present their own projects within your university system. Also, the scheme for promotion of academic and research collaboration, the SPARC. Again, this is an Indian product. Was also presented by Minister Singh in Mendoza, and also there, Italy is one of the 25 countries that were selected to be part of this project, and we are very happy to work together with you in this respect. So, Mr. Reddy, you have mentioned also the specific, let's say, items on which we may work and which we could try to generate some momentum from this meeting today. I am very much with you. I totally share your views. We have talked about this already. Just a word on the Bologna process that we are very keen on in Italy. It's not simply because Bologna is in Italy. The Bologna process, as you said, involves a large number of countries, 48 countries in this moment. It is not only European countries, It starts as a European effort, but it has expanded beyond Europe. And I think it's an initiative that goes along well with the spirit of the university activity, which is a universal spirit and goes beyond borders. So the Bologna process that you have already outlined, and that aims at unifying the views on the credit system, on the level of education in general, on the exchange of ideas, is something on which Italy will be working in the next 2 years in particular, because we are going to be responsible for the secretariat of the Bologna process. There's going to be next year in Italy a meeting of deans of the Bologna process. We plan on having several hundred deans from all the world gathering in Italy to discuss and to meet, to exchange views within this process. In the following year, 2020, the ministers of education and of higher education will be meeting in Rome, also within the framework of the Bologna process. So we very much like to have a participation of India into both these gatherings. We look forward to that. You have already said, you have explained to us, it's no mystery how important education is for a country of 1.3 billion people. A young country, an ancient country, but made of young people. So we have to gather strengths and work on our synergies and see how you can match your education system with the wider education system, in this case of the Bologna process, which is Europe and beyond. Another item that you have also mentioned is linking up the university system with production and industry. We are here together within this very impressive effort by CII, the Confederation of Indian Industry. CII works well also with the Italian Chamber of Commerce, based in Bombay, but with offices throughout the country. I think that we should work together and identify projects of this sort together with Italian companies who are investing in this country. You have major investments also in Italy, growing amounts of investments by Indian multinational companies. But the presence in India should be the base through which we could identify some companies, 3-4 companies, that could work together in this spirit, and so to work together with the university system, with research, and in a synergic way promote a specific project. You have also mentioned the PhD program, working together on PhDs. Again, you're touching a very vital and I must say sensitive spot. The higher you go up in education, the more difficult it is to get the academicians together. I mean, academicians are, as I said, they work in a sort of this holistic and universal mood. But when they start working in their own universities, well, they're also rather protective, and they sort of make sure that they are able to control totally their space. Well, we have to bring together that level of education at PhD level, the highest level of education, because it is at that level that we can achieve the best results in that spirit of not only collaboration, but I would say of pragmatic collaboration, which means bridging the gap that exists in Italy. I think it's less so in India, but it exists in Italy very much, between the theoretical dimension of education in our excellent universities, because our university system rates very well, but it has difficulties in linking up with the productive world and with the companies. So, I mean, we can very well work also on that, on finding ways of leveling and bringing together our PhDs and make sure that our academicians may work better in Italy and in India, exchanging without borders. Well, thank you very much, and best wishes for your work.
Thank you very much. We'll then move on to our first panel speaker for this morning, Professor Ram Gopal Rao, Director, IIT Delhi.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, thank you, Dr. Reddy, and very happy to be here. Good morning to all of you. So I am from IIT Delhi, so I am the director of the institute. IIT Delhi, for my Italian colleagues, I should leave about 550 faculty, 9,000 students, and we are one of the top institutions in the country today. And in terms of the world ranking, we are one of the 3 institutes in the country which is ranked in the 200 kind of a thing. And all our engineering departments at IIT Delhi are in the top 100 in the world. In terms of research, we are ranked 39th in the world today. So we are one of the best institutions in the country. And I would also like to tell you, particularly my Italian counterparts, that this is the best time to collaborate with India. One thing that is changing in IITs is, we are all becoming very conscious about our world ranking. Our world rankings are not what we would have liked, simply because of one reason, that is internationalization. The IITs remained mostly Indian. That is what is affecting our ranking. And Government of India, particularly MHRD, has opened up the IIT system now. Now we are actively looking for collaborations. Just last week, I signed a MOU with the University of Queensland in Australia for a joint PhD program. And we are looking, therefore, for more such joint PhD programs. And I welcome the Italian universities to start talking to us. And I think this is the time to do that. 1 year ago or 2 years ago, we would have hesitated. But now that we have started doing it, I think we should really make use of this opportunity. And also, I think in terms of, since there is not much time, in terms of specific recommendations, Italy, when we think of, Italy is associated with design. When you think of design, you think of Italy. When you think of fashion, you think of Italy. So these are the 2 areas, the design and textiles, for example, are the 2 areas where IIT Delhi has a strength. We just started a brand new department of design, and I can tell you design activities in India today are considered as favorite as the computer science departments, because the design programs like the Master of Design or the Bachelor of Design is what some of the IITs are offering. IIT Delhi will be starting a Bachelor of Design program next year. We already have a Master of Design program. We have started a new department of design. I would encourage the Italian counterparts of my colleagues to look at joining hands with us, and we can offer joint master's program or joint PhD program in the design area. And there is a lot of demand from India because finding jobs in the design area is very easy. Industries are looking for designers right now, the product designers, and therefore this is a great opportunity now. Since IIT Delhi is beginning a program, we are definitely looking for those areas. And the textile engineering, IIT Delhi is one of the very few IITs in the country, in fact one of the only one among the older IITs, which has a complete department of textile engineering. We have a department of textile engineering. In the country today, the technical textiles is becoming a major area of focus. Our Ministry of Textiles has launched a major program on technical textiles, and that is again an area where we will be very keen to work with our Italian counterparts, the best universities in Italy, to offer joint programs either at the master's level or at the PhD level, both in these design and textile areas. Another area where India is doing pretty well is in sensors. India requires because of this IoT and all of these revolutions that are taking place now, whether you take security, whether you take healthcare, whether you take agriculture, sensors are going to be used in a very large way. And for example, in agriculture, precision agriculture is becoming a very important aspect for India. And Prime Minister has recently announced that by 2022, Government of India wants to double the farmer's income. That will not happen unless we go for precision agriculture kind of technologies. Therefore, sensors are going to be very, very important. And India and Italy collaborating with each other, making use of our strengths and developing sensor technology, sensor platforms, sensor systems, I think that there is a great opportunity for our two countries to collaborate. And I think that another suggestion that I have. Another thing I should also tell you is one of the things that has changed in IITs in the last 1 year is faculty recruitment. Now in IITs, we can recruit foreigners on our faculty. Until now, the Government of India institutions, we had restrictions in recruiting non-Indian origin people, but now Government of India has allowed us to recruit foreigners, and this is again a good opportunity because I have many Italian friends with PhDs. Finding a faculty position in Italy is not very easy. And I can also tell you, a job in IIT gets a similar amount of salary as what you would pay to an assistant professor in the Italian universities. So encourage your good PhDs to apply to us for faculty positions. All these are now massively looking for recruiting foreigners on our faculty. And once you have the Italians serving on our faculty, your students also will come and the interactions also will grow. I think, this is a great opportunity. 1 year ago, I could not have said that, but these are the changing times now. So we are looking for Italian citizens to come and teach in our IITs, in our best institutions, and I think, we will definitely welcome. So these are the some of the suggestions, and anyway, as many of, in fact, Dr. Sandhu also mentioned, there are many Government of India initiatives for foreign interactions. That is what all of us have realized now to bring up our institutions in terms of world ranking. SPARC, S-P-A-R-C, is one of the most recent programs for research interactions. GAN is already there, but another program which you may not have heard of is VAJRA, V-A-J-R-A, which is run by the Department of Science and Technology. VAJRA is also a great initiative where you can have longer term interactions with Indian and foreign relatives. I would personally think that India and Italy should come together. Italy is the only country where, as a vegetarian, I never had a problem with food. You go to anywhere and whereas any other country you are looking for an Indian restaurant. I think we share many things in common, and I hope I would like to see more collaborations between India and Italy, and particularly at IIT Delhi. I welcome you to start talking to us, and we will be very happy to work with you on all of these kind of initiatives. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Ram Gopal Rao. You really presented real opportunities for our foreign collaborators. Thank you very much again. We then move on to our next speaker, who is Professor Luca Beverina. Beverina, right? Yep, got it right. Thank you. From University of Milano.
Okay, I have a few slides. I'll try to be brief, which coming from an academician is always a bit threatening, but in this case I'll really try to be brief. So today I'm representing not my university alone, I'm representing CII, which is the Conference of the Italian University Rectors, which is an institution which has a practical capacity to influence the development of the university system in Italy. And what CII has been concerned about in recent years is precisely the relationship between the university and the enterprises in Italy, which our chairman was mentioned before, to increase those relationships and have a mutual aid between the two systems to improve competitiveness. In order to do so, CII made 5 working groups. I'm particularly focusing on industrial PhD, and the aim was improve competitiveness on both the enterprise and the university system in Italy. Now, Italy, this has been mentioned before in yesterday's session, has a very peculiar economical system which is dominated by small and medium enterprises, more small than medium and family-owned. Now, competitiveness through innovation can be a problem for such small enterprises because you have to make investments which are medium to long time, and maybe you don't have the resources to do so, and you lack infrastructures. On the other hand, you have universities, and universities can really be helpful in terms of infrastructure. structures, weight internationalization, synergy on technological platforms, and so on and so forth. So CII decided to focus on such instruments, and in particular PhD. But before I move into industrial PhD, I'd like to spend a couple of words on PhD programs in Italy. Now, Italy has a strong tradition in terms of education at the academic level, yet in terms of PhD, we are a little bit behind schedule, because most countries with a developed economy introduced the PhD in the form we are now familiar today in the early 60s. In Italy, the first PhD program was introduced in the early 80s, and back at that time, it was only intended to be the way to go into an academic career. Obviously, by early 2000s, it was apparent that this was a strong limitation, because only 15% of the people holding it could find a place in the academy, and at the same time, Italian enterprises started to invest in industrially funded PhD, which at the time we called industrial under commerce. By 2013, the ministry had realized that what we needed was an appropriate industrial PhD program, which we did, in order to bridge the gap between the other economies who started with PhD already industrially oriented in the 60s, and us, who started to think about that in the early 90s. Now, the idea was to go at the same time bottom-up and top-down. The bottom-up is just industrially funded PhD fellowships, which goes in the direction of harvesting talents. But the new and innovative instrument, it's the so-called executive PhD. This is a PhD program which is oriented to people already working in the enterprise. So the idea is, if our enterprise is very small and it's not in a position of hiring someone with a PhD, we could help perhaps a manager already working within the enterprise to get a PhD, and by this way profiting from all the peculiar characteristics of the PhDs. So in this case, it goes top down, whilst the harvesting of young talents goes bottom up. So this happened in 2013, and now it's time to see whether we are doing the right thing for our enterprise system or not. If you look at the official statistics of the ministry, you could get numbers which are slightly misleading, because this was not an instrument which was originally intended for everyone. So along with Confindustria, we decided to try to highlight a specific ensemble of enterprises which was particularly sensitive and receptive toward innovation. And through this, using this sub-ensemble, which is representative in any case of the situation in Italy, because it's dominated by small and medium enterprises, we precisely decided to do so, to see if the industrial P was there and if they're happy with it. Now, the result is not surprising. You get the more PhD representation, the larger is the dimension of the industry. But if you go to the people that did not invest in a PhD, either industrial or not, you get a surprising answer. The problem is not money. The problem is not time. The problem is that either they did not have an interest in industrial PhD, they did not know the instrument, or they did not consider to invest in a PhD, which is a real pity. Because if you go to the industry which already invested in a PhD, they were all happy with the result, and only a minor fraction of them had a few concerns, but none of them had a negative approach toward PhD, meaning that the instrument was really well conceived, and it's just a matter to raise the awareness toward the industrial PhD program, which is what CII is doing through the publication yearly of a report, but more importantly by creating SharePoints to collect information and by highlighting successful stories, which we are doing in the form of video pills. But what I would like to close my contribution with, which is particularly important for today's event, is the internationalization. Now, internationalization in PhD schools in Italy, it's already particularly important, and very frequently our students has a mandatory stay abroad of at least 6 months. Within the industrial PhD, we do not have this rule already, but it could be a good idea, particularly to strengthen the relationships between Italy and India, to do so also at the industrial PhD level, because at the same time it could create bonds between our companies and our academic institutions. The academic institutions are already in an international network, and we know that our PhD programs strongly profit from a large presence of Indian students. We do not send as many Italian students in India, but I think this is going to change. We could do the same, profiting from existing relationships between Italian and Indian companies, and using so to promote and boost also international relationships at the level of the industrial PhD. And how to do so? Well, the best way is to exploit the platforms that have been highlighted during this meeting. which is cultural heritage, aerospace, CCT, clean tech, renewable, and healthcare. And by this way, we could really help creating an integrated system between academic training and competitive entrepreneurship systems. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Beverina. Thank you very much. Two concepts, SMEs, you thought was very important, internationalization. Thank you very much for those inputs to us. We then move on to Dr. Asim Chauhan, the Chancellor of University, the largest private university in India. I'd like to make a small request to my fellow panelists. I believe at 11:30 we have to vacate this ballroom for security reasons. So therefore, if you can kindly limit your comments to about 3 minutes, at the most 4 minutes, I think we'll be in a position to cover at least all the panelists in one round. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. And very good morning to all of you, Shri Sukhbir Sandhuji, Professor Emilio Aulucci, my distinguished colleagues from India and Italy, on the dais and off the dais, my many colleagues and well-wishers of Amity in the audience. I'm so happy to see all of you here as well. I'm very amazed by seeing the program of this technology summit, to see the breadth and depth of the agenda and the kind of speakers that are here. At a personal level, I was born and raised in Europe, 18 years in Germany, and I had countless opportunities to visit Italy, and some of my very close friends were Italian, and I saw the great chemistry and the common culture that we have, and therefore I'm optimistic that such a platform that we have here in this technology summit can lead to many more synergies and areas of cooperation in times to come. A line about Amity, especially for those who are here visiting. The Amity Education Group, which I represent, is our family's non-profit foundation. We today have 170,000 students across 10 universities in India, and also foreign campuses in 15 locations, including London, Singapore, Dubai, Abu Dhabi, New York, Seattle, San Francisco, Amsterdam, South Africa, Mauritius, China, and Romania. We have a great research and innovation focus with more than 1,000 patents filed by our scientists, and our incubation centers have incubated more than 300 technology ventures, out of which we have taken equity stakes in about 70 of them. In terms of our Italian collaborations, we have a number of very good partnerships. For the interest of time, I will only highlight two of them. One with the University of Modena and Reggio, which is a very old university where we have student programs at the undergraduate and postgraduate levels, and on the skills and vocational side, an agreement with the Scuola Universitaria Europea per il Turismo, or the European University for Tourism, where we're doing joint programs and student and staff mobility programs, particularly for the upcoming and emerging area of tourism in both countries. In terms of specific suggestions, I will come to this quickly now. We must also say a lot has already been done. If you look at the executive program of cooperation, which is within the aegis of the Scientific and Technological Cooperation Agreement, and most recently signed in April 2017, already a lot of work has been done. It has been mentioned that 23 projects have been funded between Italian and Indian universities. The India-Italy Business Forum, which was there from 2011, has focused on ICT and higher education. The Uni-Italia Center and Embassy is doing a very good job in connecting students and universities between our nations. And also now the more recent agreement in TVET is also focusing on skills. But yet, as has been mentioned also, more can be done. And I just want to highlight a few specific suggestions where we can draw more synergy out of our countries and our institutions. One would be the establishment of a joint knowledge and technology transfer centers in both countries. We have heard about NetVal. In Italy, we have a number of technology transfer centers in India. I think we can set up on both sides one unified center where we can help technology be commercialized on both sides. That might be very helpful. People-to-people exchange, we have to keep pushing. The framework is there, but maybe we need to have some targets. So we are proposing 100 fellowships, which should be jointly funded for senior scientists, and 500 fellowships for young scientists for exchange programs in science and technology, 200 fellowships for joint PhD programs, We are doing a few of these, but I think as a whole between the countries, we should push it and target at least 200 fellowships, 500 scholarships for master students for joint dissertation work. We should have a target of at least 1,000 students at the undergraduate level, particularly for immersion programs between Italy and India. We should share expertise in the area of online and digital education. This is one area which has great scope in India, and we are pushing this in a very big way. Italy has some expertise in the area. There can be some sharing of knowledge. And we should also create thematic task forces in particular areas, including water technology, renewable, sustainability, biomedical, precision agriculture, medicine, and maybe also frugal innovation, where the design expertise of Italy can help in developing technologies which can address problems which can be solved together, particularly for India and Asia. For the business promotion side, we are proposing for the SMEs on both sides, in Italy and India, we know both countries of soft landing centers. Enterprises from both countries can go and test their businesses on both sides without a large investment. We already have a large number of government-funded incubation centers. In India, maybe they can be utilized as a soft landing center for Italian SMEs in India. We, as the Amity Group, are highly committed to this partnership between the countries. We want to keep expanding the partnerships we have. Any collaboration proposal that there is in terms of R&D, joint research, commercialization, and joint PhDs, we are very open to it. And the quality of speakers that we have, I think, speaks very highly about the importance that in Italy is also setting in its priorities and agenda for the bilateral agreement. With these few words, I'm very happy to share these views. And for the audience members, you are the bridge, really, between the countries, and we look at a lot of you to keep pushing forward the agenda between the countries. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Chauhan. Especially, I think I like your ideas on online digital education, task forces for frugal innovation. We'll talk about them a little more as we move forward. Then we'll move on to our next panelist, who is Professor Theodora Ballentine.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning to everybody. I do also have some slides, but since the time is quite strict, I will not use it, and I will talk see that. To start, before coming to some of the consideration, to make a contribution to the bullet points which have been evidenced, like, for example, industry-academia collaboration, post-study work options, increased exchange of students and faculties. I will not be back on the Bologna process. You have already heard about that. And research partnership. Let me just give to some very quick information about Rome University La Sapienza, which is, as you perhaps know, the largest university in Europe and one of the oldest university in Italy. We do have actually 120,000 students per year, actually 3,500 academics between professors and researchers, more than 4,000 staff personnel. We do have 11 faculties, 60 departments, 2 hospitals, public hospitals, 1 school of advanced studies, 1 school of aerospace engineering, which has a very strong historical tradition. More or less 1,400 international cooperation agreements. One is with the IIT in India, just started last year, and more than 280 master and bachelor programs. About ranking, I heard about IIT. We were classified by QS like the first university in ancient and classic studies. That means archaeology and cultural heritage, which is one of the topics of this Tech Summit. And we have been also, by the academic world ranking, classified as the fourth in Italy in 13 areas, thematic areas, among tech, automation, aerospace engineering, physics, etc., etc. So, some possible areas of cooperation, also to increase already existing cooperation. One example, Last year we set up at level of Confederation of Directors of Italian University an agreement with Japan, with many Japanese universities. It was an umbrella agreement supported by all the university and by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Italy for set up research programs together, including staff and including faculty and students exchange. So we could perhaps work on this direction also with the Indian university, provided that apart from direct support of the university involved, also intergovernmental support for this measure can be obtained. This is one example. Second example, we have many of our universities in Italy have funding for visiting and for researchers exchange. So we could perhaps identify specific area and reserve on both sides, and again, possibly with ministry support, funding for specific and target exchange on selected scientific and education areas like those in this summit have been evidenced. Going to the industrial academic collaboration, I need to mention the measurements which has been set up by our Ministry of Economic Development in the framework of the program which is called Industry 4.0. We are now negotiating with the ministry. They will start at the beginning of next year, I guess, 8 national competence centers. They are public-private framework institutions which are dedicated essentially to introduction of digital technologies inside our manufacturing system. One of them, you can find the list on my presentation. One of them, for example, I spoke about that because I am coordinator, is on cybersecurity. And cybersecurity is another topic of this Tech Summit. In this competence center, we are 10 universities and research center and 40 big, medium, and small enterprises, all Italian. And we are obviously open to collaboration and cooperation. One of the missions of the Competence Center is to set up, orient, and perform research, applied research programs which start from the technology readiness level, minimum of 6, 7. That is, they are ready to be transferred more or less to the market. And Indian partners are obviously welcome. You already heard about IP sharing, patent by my colleague, startup. We could work together, for example, to make a framework of startup exchange experience between Italian startup and Indian startup. And then in terms of cooperative research, many areas can be evidenced. I want to underline the cultural heritage area. We are obviously very open. And also another topic which is very important at the European level, but I think also at country level, which is the responsible research and innovation topics. We have the Italian Association for Industrial Research, to which we participate, which is deeply involved in this topic, and it's really participated academic industrial topics to be exploited, also with support of funding by the European Union. And then just to finish, you will hear from another presentation by my colleague of Polytechnic of Milano, measurements about joint degrees, etc. So I will not talk about that. I heard PhD exchange, sure, that's very good measurements. I would suggest dual PhD. Dual PhD is a very easy and a very quick and a very simple measurements to be set up together. And it can represent for sure an enhancement of collaboration, cooperation between universities. And then other measurements which could be object of common work are, for example, international masters, post-master course, which can be set up in an autonomous way by universities with common participation of faculties coming from both countries, students coming from both countries. They can stay for a period in Italy, for a period in India. And so this is a real way to strengthen relationship between our countries on academic point of view in the academic side. So I think we have many possibilities. Let's work together on that.
Sure.
That's all.
Thank you. Appreciate your comments this morning. We then move on to Mr. Unnikrishnan, Managing Director of Thermats.
Thank you, Dr. Reddy. I know the time limitations, so I'll straight come to the point. I'm the only member over here who's from the hardcore industry. And we have almost 120 installations working in Italy, including airports to various other places for cooling. So, and we have transferred technology from Italy into India for building construction area, construction chemicals. Having worked very closely, I'm fully aware of the fact that what we can gain from there. So I'll limit my talk only to the areas that we need to be focusing for the industry purpose. And it can also add on to academia. Energy is an area where Italy is extremely advanced in terms of renewable sector. I'm aware of the fact that in solar thermal, some of the inventions across the globe has happened in Italy. Maybe because of the advancement of PV, photovoltaic thermal has come down. But I'm aware of the fact that a specific company, TPV, has got a patent which is not available to anybody in the world. We're combining that with cooling because Italy is now facing summer, which you didn't have maybe 50 years back. So it can be a common development area for India and Italy. That is utilizing heat for cooling, thermal technologies for that one, using solar, number one. Second is in areas like auto styling, because India will be possibly the second largest market for automobiles. And Italy has done wonderful jobs in auto styling, then auto transmission, and possibly the finest of the beasts in automobile industries are always manufactured and designed by Italy. And India is looking forward to that. We are at a primary stage of development of technology, so we can work together in auto styling. And like the way Dr. Reddy mentioned about in the beginning, for Industry 4.0, across the country today there is a development and the government has taken initiative and we have got a specific sector working on 4.0 for all industries put together. We have signed up with Germany already, an MOU. I think knowing the capabilities of Italy as a country, a lot more can be done in terms of process automation from them. Because I've seen some of the finest of automation companies in the world emanating out of Italy. They are not very large organization, family run, maybe 200, 300 people kind of organization. Twinning both of them will certainly make a lot of difference for us. Next item is I mentioned about India is used to construction limited to maybe 10 stories, 20 stories. Now we are inventing the 40s and 50s. Just to give you the number, 18% of the global population living in 2.5% of the global land. Our future is vertical, not horizontal. So in that area, you have helped the entire Middle East construct the taller buildings using chemicals to add strength to concrete. That's an area where I would request maybe Dr. Rao, equivalent, somebody has got to take a lead for it. How do we import that technology through academic sources for the country? So these are, I could have expanded it, but since you have already told me the limitation of time. In my opinion, India has just started a lot well because we already have the chairman of the Prime Minister's Doctoral Fellowship, Dr. Rao. I co-chaired it with him. We already have completed 168 PM fellowships in the country. In that, I believe, the apex people who are doing the doctoral fellowship, can we have anything to be done along with Italy? And do you have a program where we can have, at the senior most level of both the countries, we look forward to jointly developing technology where industry participates and academia participates from both the countries. It could be more like a 2+2 system, where an industry and an institution of India and an industry and an institution of Italy together take up a joint project, and funding partly comes from the government and from the industry. Academia does the fundamental research. So I look forward to a lot more to happen because in my understanding, when I grew up as a youngster, Italy produced possibly technologies as good as what you today talk about Germany or America. So looking forward to that joint development. Thank you.
much, Professor Krishnan. Good new ideas. We'll talk about them. We then move on to Dr. David Vinozzi, Director General of CII, Inter-University Consortium. We do have a time constraint, so we need to be careful on that.
Thank you. It's an honor for me to be here, and thank you for the invitation. I would like to show you a short history of my consortium to plan some cooperation between our country. CINECA is the main consortium of Italian university. It was founded in 1969 and now is the in-house consortium for the entire public university of Italy, of the Italian Ministry for Education and Research, and of 10 research body of Italy. We have the headquarters in Bologna and our 3 main offices in Milan, Rome, and Naples. We employed around 800 employees and has a revenue of 100 billion for year. CINECA was founded to acquire the first Italian high-performance computer in 1969, and for the following 10 years, we managed the high-performance computer of Italy, which became the most powerful computer of the European Union. After 1980, CINECA started to manage the services for the ministry, and we provide all IT support for the Italian Ministry of Education and Research. Starting in 1990, we start to manage the IT for the university, which reached the autonomy. And now we provide system for accounting, human research, procurement, HR, and all other IT